Lauren told me she wanted a divorce while I was buttering toast. It was a Thursday morning in Charlotte, just after 7. The kitchen windows were still fogged from the coffee maker, and the local news was murmuring from the television in the family room about traffic on I-77. Lauren sat across from me in a pale blue blouse, nails perfectly done, hair pinned back like she had somewhere important to be. She didn't look nervous. That was the first thing I noticed. She looked prepared. "I think I'm done, Mark," she said, lifting her coffee like she was commenting on the weather. "I want a divorce." For a second, the room went so still I could hear the scrape of my knife across the toast. 21 years of marriage, 2 daughters, 1 lake house, 1 carefully built life. And she dropped it onto the breakfast table between the strawberry jam and the fruit bowl like it was an overdue bill. I looked at her, really looked at her. Lauren expected impact. I could see it in the way she held her shoulders. She was braced for the blowback. Tears, maybe. Anger. Questions fired across the table. She wanted a scene she could manage. Something emotional. Something loud enough to make me look weak, and her look certain. Instead, I folded my napkin and set it beside my plate. "Okay," I said. She blinked. "Okay." I took a sip of coffee. "If that's what you want, okay." That landed harder than any shouting would have. Her mouth parted, then closed again. Lauren had always known how to handle conflict. When there was something to push against, silence was different. Calm was different. Calm made people reveal themselves. She gave a short laugh, but there was no humor in it. "That's it? After everything? That's all you have to say?" I shrugged once. "You've clearly thought about it." The truth was I had too, more than she knew. Outside, a garbage truck groaned its way down the street. Our golden retriever, Jasper, lifted his head from the rug and went back to sleep. Everything in that house looked painfully normal. The polish counters, the school photo of Emma and Claire in silver frames, Lauren's car keys beside her handbag, the ordinary remains of a life that had already been dead for longer than either of our daughters could imagine. She studied my face like she was searching for a crack. "You're not even going to fight for me?" I met her eyes and kept my voice level. "No, I'm not." That was the moment her expression changed. Not guilt, not sadness. Something closer to confusion. Because for the first time in a long time, Lauren Ellison had said something meant to control the room. And I hadn't given her control of anything. Lauren thought that breakfast was a beginning. It wasn't. It was just the first time she said something out loud. For me, the real beginning had been 2 months earlier, on a humid Friday night in July, when she came home smelling like hotel soap and citrus perfume that wasn't hers. It was subtle. Most men would have missed it. I didn't. Lauren kissed my cheek, set her purse on the entry table, and told me she'd been stuck at a late dinner with clients from Raleigh. She said it smoothly, while slipping off her heels, like she practiced in the car. I remember standing there in my socks, still holding a file from the office, watching her move through the house with the confidence of someone who believed the room belonged to her version of the truth. That was when I stopped dismissing the small things. The locked phone screen turned away from me at night. The sudden Pilates classes she never used to care about. The new dresses. The charges on our credit card for restaurants she claimed not to remember. Lauren had always been careful. But careful people get sloppy when they think they're smarter than the person beside them. I didn't confront her. I hired someone. His name was Daniel Pike, a private investigator out of Gastonia. Former CMPD, quiet voice, no wasted words. I met him in his office above a tax service between a nail salon and an empty insurance storefront. He wore a gray shirt with the sleeves rolled once at the forearms and listened without interrupting while I laid out 21 years of marriage in neat pieces. "I don't need drama," I told him. "I need facts." He nodded once. Facts are cleaner. And they were. Within 11 days, I had photos. Lauren leaving a restaurant off Fairview Road, laughing at something a man said as his hand rested on the small of her back. Lauren checking into the Grand Bohemian under a name that wasn't hers. Lauren sitting in Brent Sawyer's black Range Rover with her head turned toward him in a way I recognized immediately, because I had once been a man she looked at like that, Brent Sawyer. Even seeing his name in Pike's report felt like old poison in fresh water. He had been my friend once, back when we were young enough to think ambition made us brothers. We met in law school, before I changed course and went into commercial real estate. Brent stayed near the money, near the contracts, near the kinds of people who smile while measuring your weaknesses. He helped me close my first major deal in Charlotte, then spent the next few years trying to siphon off my clients behind my back. I cut him out of my life 15 years ago. Lauren had let him back into the front door of my marriage. By the time she asked for a divorce over breakfast, I already knew where they met, how often, what she paid for, and how long she'd been lying to my face. So when I said, okay, I wasn't surrendering. I was simply letting her walk into the version of the story I had already finished reading. I called Emma first. It was late afternoon, just after 5. The office was quiet, most of my team already gone. The city outside my window sliding into that soft gray light Charlotte gets before sunset. I sat at my desk, phone in hand, looking at her name for a few seconds before pressing call. She picked up on the second ring. Hey, Dad. Background noise. Campus life. Voices. Footsteps. Something metallic clanging in the distance. Hey, I said. My voice sounded normal. I made sure of that. You busy? Just heading back from class. What's up? I leaned back in my chair, eyes on the skyline. Your mom and I are separating. Silence. Not long. Just enough to register. Oh, she said finally. Is this serious? It's done, I said. We'll handle it cleanly. Emma exhaled slowly. Did something happen? I watched the car move across the bridge below. Headlights flickering on. It's been building for a while. That was true, just not in the way she meant. Are you okay? She asked. I'm fine. Another pause. Then softer. What about Mom? She made her decision. Emma didn't push. She never did. That was Claire's role. I can come home this weekend, she said. No, I replied. Stay where you are. Focus on school. We'll talk more soon. She hesitated, then said, Okay, I love you. I love you too. I ended the call and sat there for a moment, phone still in my hand. Then I called Claire. She answered with energy. Like always, Hey, this is rare. You calling me twice in 1 week? I almost smiled. Your mom and I are getting divorced, I said. She went quiet immediately. Claire didn't ease into things. She reacted. What? Why? Did you guys fight? No, that doesn't make sense, Dad. It doesn't have to, I said. It's happening. Her breathing changed. Faster, sharper. Is this because of you or her? I looked down at the folder sitting on my desk. Not the one Pike gave me. The other one, thinner, older, more dangerous. It's complicated, I said. Don't say that, she snapped. That's what people say when they're hiding something. I let the silence sit, because she was right. Claire, I said calmly, you don't need the details right now. That means it's bad. Yes. She didn't speak for a few seconds. When she did, her voice was smaller. Are we still family? I closed my eyes briefly. Yes, I said. That part doesn't change. That was the truth I chose to give her, not the other one, not the envelope I had opened alone in my car 3 weeks earlier, not the sterile language of lab, results confirming what I had suspected for years but never proven, not the quiet, irreversible fact that neither of my daughters shared my blood. I had stared at those pages until the words stopped feeling real. Probability of paternity, 0%. Twice. I folded the report carefully, slid it back into its envelope, and locked it in my desk. Because some truths don't need to explode all at once. Some truths are controlled, measured, timed. Dad, Claire said, I'm here. She swallowed. Okay, just don't shut me out. I won't. I ended the call and sat there in the dim office, the city now fully lit beneath me. 2 daughters who weren't mine, a wife who thought she was leaving on her terms, and a man named Brent Sawyer, who had no idea how much his life was about to collapse. I didn't feel anger. Not yet. Just clarity. The morning after Lauren asked for a divorce, I went to the office earlier than usual, 6:10 a.m. The parking garage was half empty, concrete still holding the cool from the night. I like that hour. No noise, no interruptions, just space to think clearly. I unlocked my office, set my briefcase down, and powered on my laptop. Then I started moving. Not emotionally, logically. The first call was to my attorney, Richard Hale. I'd spoken to him once before, weeks earlier, under the pretense of updating estate documents. He answered on the second ring, voice sharp, already working. "She finally said it?" he asked. "Yes." "Good," he replied. "That simplifies things." I didn't smile. I want everything clean, controlled. "You'll have it," he said, "but we move now." That was exactly what I intended. By 7 a.m., we had a list, accounts to review, structures to reinforce, access points to close. Lauren thought she was stepping out of a marriage. She didn't realize she was stepping out of a system she barely understood. Most of our major assets weren't sitting in simple joint accounts. They were layered, LLCs, partnerships, holdings tied to ongoing developments. That wasn't paranoia. That was standard practice in commercial real estate. But it also meant one thing. Nothing moved unless I allowed it to. I logged into our primary accounts first. The checking account she used for daily expenses, unchanged for now. That was intentional. You don't trigger alarms too early. Then the secondary accounts. The ones she'd been quietly draining. I had already seen the patterns. Daniel Pike hadn't just followed her physically. He'd traced timelines. Every dinner with Brent, every hotel stay, every client meeting lined up with transfers. Small amounts. Never enough to stand out individually. But together, it was systematic. I froze external transfers on those accounts. Not visibly, not dramatically. Just enough that new withdrawals would quietly fail. Then I moved to the business side. I restructured access permissions across 3 of my primary LLCs. Remove her visibility where it had been unnecessary, but tolerated. Tighten authorization layers so nothing could be signed, sold, or leveraged without direct approval. By 8:15, I had already closed more doors than she knew existed. I leaned back in my chair and looked at the city waking up outside. There's a difference between reacting and preparing. Lauren was reacting to whatever version of reality she had built with Brent. I was preparing for the one that actually existed. Around 9:30, she called. I let it ring once before answering. "Hey," I said. Her tone was different from the day before. Lighter, almost relieved. "I've been thinking. We should try to keep this as smooth as possible. No lawyers if we can avoid it." Of course, that was the version of divorce she wanted. Simple, fast, unquestioned. "Sure," I said calmly. "We'll keep it clean." She exhaled like she just regained control. "Good. I knew you'd be reasonable." I looked down at the screen in front of me, at the lock permissions, the frozen pathways, the quiet walls already in place. "I always am," I said, and that was the truth, just not in the way she meant. The movers arrived at 10 a.m. sharp. 2 trucks for men, clean uniforms, efficient, quiet, the kind of crew that doesn't ask questions as long as everything is labeled properly. I stood in my office while they wrapped framed deals, awards, and artwork in thick brown paper. The walls were already half empty. The room echoed in a way it never had before. Lauren showed up at 10:17. She wasn't supposed to. I saw her reflection in the glass before I heard her heels. She stepped in slowly, scanning the room like she'd walked into someone else's life. "What is all this?" she asked. "Transition," I said without turning. Her tone tightened. "You're moving out already?" "Eventually." That word bothered her. I could hear it. She crossed her arms, watching the movers carry out a sculpture she'd picked out years ago in Atlanta. "This feels extreme, Mark." I turned then. Calm, measured. "You asked for a divorce." "I know, but this doesn't have to be so cold." Cold. I almost repeated it, but didn't. Instead, I walked to my desk and picked up a thin folder. Black, unmarked. "Sit down," I said. She hesitated. That was new. Then she sat. I opened the folder slowly. Not for effect, just precision. Inside were printed records. Clean, chronological, bank transfers, invoice copies, travel receipts. Her handwriting on a few authorization notes she didn't remember signing. I slid the first page toward her. She glanced at it, confused. What is this? Consulting payments, I said. Her eyes moved across the numbers. Then back to me. Okay, and I slid the next page. Then the next, each one clearer than the last. Fake consulting invoices tied to Brent Sawyer. Amounts that started small, then grew, then repeated. Her breathing changed. That's not what it looks like, she said quickly. I didn't respond. I let her keep reading. Luxury hotel charges. Private flights, she said, were team bookings. Tuition payments. That one made her stop. Her finger froze on the line. Tuition assistance, Sawyer J. She looked up slowly. You pay for his son's tuition, I said. Silence. Not denial. Not yet. Just a moment where the structure collapses before the sound hits. You've been funding him, I continued, voice steady. For how long? She shook her head, but it was automatic. Reflex, not conviction. It wasn't like that. It's exactly like that, I said, cutting clean across her. That stopped her. I leaned slightly forward, not aggressive, just present. I know about the dinners, the hotels, the transfers. I know how you routed the money. I know when it started. Her face lost color, because in that moment, she understood something she hadn't considered before. This wasn't suspicion. This wasn't a guess. This was finished. How much do you know? She asked quietly. I held her eyes. Enough. The room behind us stayed in motion. Tape pulling, boxes closing, lives being packed into clean edges. Lauren sat completely still. For the first time since that breakfast, she wasn't controlling the narrative. She was trying to understand how far behind she already was. I left Charlotte on a Monday. No announcement, no drawn-out goodbyes. Just a black SUV, 2 suitcases, and a set of keys I handed back to the property manager without looking twice. Nashville felt different the moment I arrived. Cleaner, in a way that had nothing to do with the streets. The air carried movement, music somewhere in the distance, even in the quieter parts of the city. My condo sat high above the river, glass, steel, controlled space, minimal furniture, no history in the walls. That was the point. I didn't come here to recover. I came here to reset. The first few weeks were quiet, deliberately so. I worked remotely, handled the legal process through Richard and his team, and avoided anything that resembled a social routine. Mornings started early. Coffee, emails, structured calls. Evenings ended the same way, controlled, contained. No chaos, no Lauren, no Brent, just clarity. Ava Mercer came back into the picture on a Wednesday afternoon. I hadn't planned it. We'd met months earlier in Charlotte. During a dispute on a charity board I sat on, someone had misallocated funds. Sloppy work. Easy to hide if no one looked closely. Ava had been brought in to review it. Financial fraud attorney. Sharp, direct, the kind of person who doesn't waste time explaining things twice. She had dismantled the situation in under a week. We spoke briefly back then. Nothing personal, just mutual recognition. Now she was standing across from me in a quiet cafe off Broadway, wearing a dark blazer. No unnecessary details. Eyes steady as ever. You look like someone who removed a problem, she said, setting her coffee down. Accurate, I replied. She studied me for a moment longer than necessary. And did you? Yes. That was enough for her. No sympathy, no probing, just acceptance of the answer. We talked for an hour. Not about the divorce, not directly. About structures, risk, the way people expose themselves when they believe they're safe. Ava understood patterns. That made conversations with her efficient. There was no performance in her. No need to manage her perception. At one point, she asked, "Are you rebuilding or are you just relocating?" I considered that. Rebuilding? I said. She nodded once. Good. Relocation is temporary. Rebuilding is permanent. That stayed with me. Over the next few weeks, we crossed paths again. Intentionally, but never forced. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into longer conversations. There was no rush to define anything. No emotional volatility. No unpredictability. Ava didn't try to pull anything from me. and I didn't feel the need to give anything I wasn't ready to. That was new. One night, standing on the balcony of my condo, the city lights stretching across the water, she said something simple. "You're very controlled." I glanced at her. "That a problem?" "No," she said. "It means you don't break easily." I looked back at the skyline. She wasn't entirely right. I had broken, just not in a way anyone was allowed to see. And now, piece by piece, I was building something that didn't depend on anyone else holding it together. Lauren called me 3 weeks after I moved. I let it ring once before answering. "Mark," she said too quickly. No greeting, no control, just pressure. Something's wrong with the accounts. I leaned back in my chair. Nashville's skyline stretched out beyond the glass. "What do you mean?" "I mean I can't access anything," she snapped. "The transfers aren't going through. My cards are getting declined." Not all of them, just the ones she thought she could still use without consequences. "That's strange," I said evenly. "Don't do that," she cut in. "Don't act like you don't know what's happening." I didn't respond immediately. Silence has weight when you let it sit long enough. "Mark," she said again, quieter now, "I need you to fix this." Need. That word again. For what? I asked. There was a pause. Then just expenses. Things I already committed to. I already knew what those things were. Brent's lifestyle. The dinners. The trips. The quiet support he'd been too proud to admit. And too dependent to refuse. Sounds like a timing issue. I said, "You should review your accounts." "That's exactly what I'm doing," she said, voice rising. "And it doesn't make sense." It made perfect sense. I had simply removed the illusion of unlimited access. "Talk to your bank," I said. "Mark." I ended the call, not out of anger, out of completion. 2 days later, Brent called. That was unexpected. I looked at his name on the screen for a moment before answering. Same number. Same man who once shook my hand and told me we built something lasting. "Mark." He said, "Try for confidence. Missing it. We should talk." "We are," I replied, a short exhale on his end. "Look, I don't know what Lauren told you, but I don't need her version," I said. "I have mine." Silence. Then he shifted tone. "This doesn't have to get complicated." It already was. "For you, maybe," I said. He hesitated. Then more carefully, "There are financial misunderstandings happening right now." I almost smiled. Misunderstandings. That's one way to describe it. "Those payments," he started, "were not yours." I finished. That stopped him, because now he understood the line. Not just that I knew, but that I was done letting it exist. "I think you're overreacting," he said, but it came out then. "No," I said, "I'm correcting." Another silence. Longer this time. Then quieter. "You're going to ruin her." I stood up and walked to the window, watching the river move below. "No," I said calmly. "I'm removing what doesn't belong to her." He didn't answer. Because somewhere in that moment, Brent Sawyer finally understood something Lauren hadn't yet fully grasped. This wasn't about emotion. It was about structure. And the structure they had been quietly feeding from was already gone. Within a week, the cracks widened. Lauren tried to move money through secondary channels. Blocked. She tried to lean on Brent. He couldn't carry it. Because most of what he had been presenting as stability had been built on what she gave him. And what she gave him was never really hers to begin with. By the end of the month, their calls became shorter, then sharper, then less frequent. Because when pressure replaces illusion, relationships don't strengthen. They expose, and what they had built together was never designed to survive exposure. Lauren showed up unannounced. It was just after 8 p.m. The city outside my condo was lit in soft gold, reflections moving across the river. Ava was in the kitchen, sleeves rolled, pouring 2 glasses of wine like she'd been there 100 times before. The knock wasn't hesitant. It was sharp, repeated, demanding. I didn't rush to the door. When I opened it, Lauren stood there in a dark coat, hair slightly out of place, eyes scanning past me like she expected to see something she could still control. Then she saw Ava. Everything stopped. Lauren's expression didn't break immediately. It shifted. subtle, calculating. Try to understand the new variables in a situation she no longer owned. You've moved on fast, she said. Her voice was steady, but her hands weren't. This isn't about that, I replied. Ava didn't move closer, didn't speak. She just stood there, calm, observant, exactly as she had the first time I met her, watching the structure of the moment, not reacting to it. Lauren stepped inside without being invited. I need to talk to you, she said. You are alone. No, that landed harder than anything else. Her eyes flicked to Ava again, then back to me. This concerns our family. I held her gaze. Then say it. For a second, I thought she might lose control, not emotionally, strategically, because this wasn't the environment she expected. No private room, no leverage, no way to reshape the conversation. Everything is falling apart, she said finally. The accounts, Brent, She stopped herself. Interesting. What about Brent? I asked. She swallowed. He's in trouble. Of course he was. Lauren took a step closer, lowering her voice. You need to fix this. This isn't just about me anymore. It never was, I said. That's when the second knock came. Quieter, but heavier. I already knew who it was. I opened the door again. Emma stood there first, composed but tense. Claire just behind her, eyes sharp, already searching for answers before anyone spoke. They stepped inside, and the air changed instantly. 4 people. 1 room. Too many truths pressing against the surface. What's going on? Claire asked, looking between us. Mom called me crying. Then Emma said something completely different. Emma crossed her arms. Yeah, we're done getting half stories. Lauren straightened slightly, trying to recover control. Girls, this is between your father and me. No, Claire said immediately. It's not. Silence. Then Emma looked at me. Dad, she said, calm but direct, we need the truth. I nodded once. This was always coming. I stepped forward slightly, positioning myself where they could all see me clearly. Your mother has been involved with someone else, I said. Lauren inhaled sharply. Mark. I didn't look at her. It's been going on for months, I continued. Money was moved, a lot of it, through fake business expenses. Emma's face tightened. Claire's expression hardened. Who? Claire asked. I answered without hesitation. Brent Sawyer. Lauren closed her eyes briefly. Emma let out a slow breath. You're kidding. I wish I was. Claire shook her head, anger rising fast. Mom, is that true? Lauren stepped forward. It's not as simple as he's making it sound. It's exactly that simple, I said. That cut through everything. The room went still again. Claire looked at her, waiting. Lauren didn't answer, because she couldn't. Emma's voice was quieter. You stole money? Lauren's composure cracked for the first time. I didn't steal. You redirected it, I said calmly, repeatedly. Claire let out a short, disbelieving laugh. Wow. The word wasn't loud, but it carried. Lauren looked at me then, something desperate starting to surface. You're turning them against me. No, I said. I'm removing the lies. Silence settled over the room. Heavy. Final. Emma stepped back slightly, processing. Claire didn't move at all. Her eyes stayed locked on Lauren, like she was seeing her clearly for the first time. And I stood there, steady, because even now, with everything exposed, I was still holding one truth back. Not for Lauren. For them. The silence didn't break all at once. It shifted, like something structural had cracked, and everyone was waiting to see what would collapse next. Claire was the first to move. She stepped back from Lauren, slow, controlled, like she was creating distance from something she didn't fully recognize anymore. You lied to us, she said. Not loud, not emotional, just precise. Lauren's voice came out strained. I was trying to protect you. Claire let out a short breath, shaking her head. No, you were protecting yourself. That hit. Emma didn't speak right away. She was watching me instead, like she was measuring everything I had said and everything I hadn't. Dad, she said quietly, how long have you known? Long enough, I replied. She nodded once. That was all she needed. Claire turned back to Lauren. And the money? It wasn't. Lauren started. Stop, Claire cut in. Just stop. Every time you explain it, it gets worse. Lauren's composure was slipping now. Not dramatically, not loudly, but the control was gone. I made mistakes, she said. But this isn't just on me. Your father. No, Emma said. That was the first time she raised her voice. Not much, but enough. This is on you. Lauren looked at her like she didn't recognize her anymore. Emma stepped forward slightly, calm but unmovable. You don't get to spread this around to make it easier to carry. Another silence. Heavier this time. Claire grabbed her jacket from the back of the chair. I'm not staying here. Lauren's head snapped toward her. Claire, don't do this. I'm not doing anything, she said. You already did it. She looked at me briefly, not asking permission, just confirming direction. I'm coming with you, she said. I nodded once. Okay. Lauren stepped forward, panic breaking through now. You're seriously leaving with him? After everything? Claire didn't even hesitate. Yes, that was it. No hesitation. No doubt. Just a decision. Emma stayed where she was. That didn't go unnoticed. Lauren turned to her, almost relieved. Emma, tell her this is crazy. Emma didn't move. I'm not going anywhere tonight, she said carefully. But that doesn't mean I'm on your side. Lauren's face tightened. So you're just going to sit there and judge me? Emma's expression didn't change. No, I'm trying to understand how far this actually goes. That was Emma, slower, deeper, more dangerous in the long run. Claire was already at the door. I walked past Lauren, without touching her. Mark, she said, her voice catching for the first time, you're breaking this family apart. I stopped, turned slightly, and answered calmly. No, I'm deciding what's left of it. Claire opened the door. Cool air rushed in from the hallway. And just like that, the family didn't shatter. It split. Almost a year later, I saw them again. Atlanta, late evening, glass walls, soft lighting, the low hum of money and reputation, moving through the room like a current, the kind of gala where people don't just attend, they position themselves. I stood near the bar, a hand resting lightly against the back of Emma's chair. She had insisted on coming. Black dress, simple, controlled. She carried herself differently now. Less uncertainty, more awareness. Ava stood beside me. Not close, not distant. Exactly where she chose to be. That mattered. 3 o'clock, Ava said quietly. I didn't turn immediately. I took a sip of my drink, then shifted my gaze across the room. Lauren and Brent, they didn't belong there anymore. You could see it before they spoke to anyone. In the way people acknowledged them, briefly, politely, then moved on. No one lingered. No one engaged longer than necessary. Brent looked thinner, not physically weak, just reduced. His confidence had edges now, forced, measured, like something he had to actively maintain instead of something that came naturally. Lauren looked composed. From a distance, up close, you could see the strain, the precision in her posture, the way her eyes kept scanning the room, searching for something that wasn't there anymore. Access, status, control, gone. Emma noticed him a second later. Her grip tightened slightly around her glass, then relaxed. You okay? I asked. She nodded. Yeah. And she was. That was the difference. They approached slowly, not together. That told me everything. Lauren reached us first. She stopped a few feet away, her eyes moving from me to Ava, to Emma. No anger this time. No performance. Just awareness. Mark, she said quietly. I nodded once. Lauren. A brief silence. Then she looked at Emma. You look good. Emma didn't respond right away. Then calmly, I am. Another pause. Lauren inhaled slightly, like she was steadying herself. I wanted to say, I'm sorry. Not dramatic, not emotional, just late. I held her gaze. For what? I asked. That question mattered, because apologies without clarity are just attempts to reduce consequences. Her eyes flickered, then settled. For all of it, she said. I let a second pass, then nodded once. I know. That was it. No acceptance, no rejection, just acknowledgement. Because at that point, it didn't change anything. Brent didn't come over. He stayed where he was, speaking to someone who clearly didn't want to be in that conversation. His world had already shrunk. Professionally, socially, financially, everything he built on shortcuts collapsed the moment the structure underneath disappeared. Lauren glanced at him briefly, then back at me. I thought I understood what I was doing, she said. You did, I replied. That landed, because it removed the last excuse. She gave a small nod, then stepped back. No scene, no breakdown. Just exit. Emma watched her go, then exhaled slowly. That felt different than I expected. People change when reality removes their options, Ava said. Emma looked at her, then smiled slightly. I like you. Ava returned the smallest hint of one. That's efficient. I looked out across the room, at the movement, the conversations, the quiet exchanges that actually mattered. A year ago, I had been standing inside a life built on assumptions. Now, everything around me was chosen, not inherited, not tolerated. Chosen. Emma stood beside me. Ava stood beside me. Claire wasn't there tonight, but she called earlier that day. Calm, stable, finding her own way through everything without breaking. That was enough. More than enough. I finished my drink and set the glass down. No anger left. No need for resolution. Because the truth had already done what it was supposed to do. It didn't just expose what was broken. It cleared the space for something that didn't need to be held together by anything other than honesty. And for the first time in a long time, everything was quiet.